So first, you can bring up your project one or anything, just for use for rendering. So I'm gonna load my tool. I actually gonna load the Beetle because I already have WK06 Beetle. So any model, guys, you can just use your project one. And I'm gonna switch to basic material. We are not going to talk about changing material, just about lighting. So now I'm gonna collapse my two palettes because I don't really need them, and I'm gonna dock render palettes into here. So to dock it, you just grab this switch, click and hold, and drop it into. And then we want light. So light palette, drop it. So we got two of these that we're gonna use. And it's too bad. In the lab, my computer, this computer, I had a little problem with loading my user UI. Because whenever it's loaded, it just frees up. So I don't have any tool here. I'm gonna have to use the main command. So first, if you look at on this side, there's a BPR here. So base preview render, shortcut is Shift R. When you hover your cursor, you will see that information. So if I do Shift R, it will render. Here we go. And these are default lighting right here, right there. Render. And if you look, go back to the render palette. Under sub palette of the rendering, there is a, let's go to render properties first. Click on it. You will see something like this. Now, the detail by default is 3, is a PVL map detail level, is correspond to right here. Subpixel anti-alias quality is 3. If you get a grain or the shadow doesn't look good, there's a few things you need to add. You could increase these from 3 to 4 or 5, something like that. Okay, so right now we don't really have any detail on polypaint or anything, so it seems 3 is working just fine. More numbers is mean longer to render. Now, by default, shadow is on. Ambient occlusion, we kind of wanted to have at least some. So that is kind of a try to help to create a shadow map. It's kind of a grayscale map on the cavity. So we get a little more defined shadow over there. And shadow and AO is ambient occlusion color. You can change the color. Well, dark color should be the best choice. Sometimes if you feel like the floor a little too dark, you could kind of bump it up just a little bit, like make it a little lighter, something like that. Or you can change a little to fake a ambient from the sunlight. You might get a little blue color, so you could add really dark blue. We can change this later. And now, all of these sections, there's a few things that might be useful in the future, but not today. Like surface scatter, wax preview, view blur, and something like that. So now, if you look below the render properties, you will see a BPR render pass. Now, these passes allow you to actually export separate a passes such as shade only, depth map, shadow map, ambient occlusion map, or masking map, and so on. So that you can bring these to Photoshop and compose them. However, under plugin, there is ZBrush to Photoshop plugin. We can talk about these later in the future. You can send it to Photoshop, and yeah.
What if my model doesn't show up on the composite and the
Oh, you have.
like those side images right there? Oh, I have to BPR.
Yes, you have to click BPR
okay,
first.
I didn't know. Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So guys, Andrew asked the question that he doesn't have the image right here just because you need to run the BPR in order to ZBrush to record those information. And we don't use transparency, but we use shadow. This is the shadow. To talk about this, we better to see the floor. In order to get a shadow casting to the floor, it's right here, floor. You need to turn on floor grid. Shortcut is Shift P, and we want Y. Y is right there, like pointing down. Now test render again by clicking BPR. You can click this button. Here we go. And take a little bit of time, depends on the system too. Now you get a shadow on the floor. And can you see, it's a little too dark. Well, it's not a big deal because it is okay. Like I said, under render property right here, we can change. Let's bump it up. Let's brighten it up just a little bit. Here we go. And click this button again. See if it lighter. Doesn't do anything at all. Let me higher. There we go. And now I can see a little less black. So, something that you can do. And render pass now, because we turn on AO, is ambient occlusion. So now that passes show up. Okay. Now, we can save the image from here too by clicking the under compose. So compose means it just compose all of these in one. So to submit the revision, you could just click on compose and just save as a JPEG or PNG. It's up to you. Let's save it as a JPEG for now so that your background is still there. Because when we don't have a background, these might be transparency. So, and I can save test render 01, and I'm gonna organize my folder. I'm gonna create a image progress. You can name anything you want. And then I'm gonna save it right there. There we go. Now you can crop it if you like by grabbing some area here. And just give a little space, like breathing room, to your composition, and click OK, and it's saved. Okay. Now, you need to render in different angle, right? But before that, can you rotate your view just like above on the side? The reason is I wanted to talk about shadow. How can you how to control the shadow? Now, by default, shadow is really crisp, which is good. But if you like to have this appear to be like the light is really close to the object. If you think about the physics, if the light source are further away, the edge of the shadow will be softer and softer and softer. Okay, unless if you are under 12 o'clock sunlights, your shadow will be really sharp, but then when the light changes the angle, the shadow shift the angle, the further away will be started to blur. So we could mimic that. Like for example, if I go to the shadow here, now there's a bunch of settings here. The only thing that you need to concern is the floor strength and the global strength. Let me put everything to 1. Okay. So 1 to 1 is 100% the strength. Now, the ray is the resolution of the shadow. So right now there's no angle change. So it means lower ray is create a sharp shadow right there. I could try to add like 0.1 because higher angle it's need to have higher ray in order to get a rendering a shadow show up with a softer edge. So let's try just 0.1. Click. And now I lose the information. It's trying to blur, but it doesn't blur correctly. So it's mean angle 0.1 from 12 unit of ray is not working. Let's do 24 and bring this down to 0 so that see if 24 the detail of the shadow come back on there.
Professor, what do you do when you click floor and nothing appears?
Which one?
Floor. I
You're
click
adding
on
the floor.
and I get just the lines. I don't get a grid or anything.
Hold on. You mean you don't get this grid?
Yeah, I don't get a
Oh.
grid. I get the X, Y, and Z axis.
Can you look if the Y is enabled? See that little tiny alphabet need to be white color.
Perfect. Okay, that was it.
Yeah.
That worked for me.
Okay.
Thank you. I knew it was something
No
simple. Thanks.
problem. So now let's test again. I think I might have to bring the cobalt strength down. It's just so dark. Let me bring this down to 0.75. See if it come back. Yeah, guys. The ground strength, I think is based on the size of the object also. So I put the ground strength down to 0.75. I could see a little bit of the bounce light. Let me bring it down more. How about 0.7? Render it out. Because we want to see the detail. So 0.7 doesn't change at all. So it means there's no need for calculation. Let's do 0.6. So basically you have to play around with some volumes. 0.6 still doesn't really change, so I'm going to put it back to 0.75. I don't want it to lose so much. Now, I add 24 rays. Now I can try angle 2. And let's test again. See if the shadow started to soft. Now it's soft a little bit. Can you see? So close up to the light source are sharp and started to not disappear. Started to be blurred more and more further. We could try 4. Here we go. And let's see how it look. You might need to step away a little bit to see. Well, I don't like it. Can you see it has banded, which is unrealistic. So I think 2 is the best. And you can try 3 and so on, but that's good enough. So 2. Here we go. So I think this is good. And Now, this resolution is already high. This is the resolution of the map. This is the sample rate that will sample a pixel. So these are 4K resolution, which is really high. Sometime though we can try like 2048 2K, half of it, and so that won't take longer to render, things like that. It doesn't really change the file size when you save. In this case, it takes less than a few minutes, less than a minute. So maybe not. I mean, in the future, if it take like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, you might need to reduce this. And so basically, these two volumes will help to reduce the rendering time. And now, let's talk about light. So light, you can add more than one light. Hold on, let's save this one too. You can go to render path, click save, and then I'm gonna save A2 so that you have more to compare. And now, because we changed the cropping from last section, ZBrush, just memorize it. Click OK. There we go. Hold on, let me check if I thought I did not record it. Hey guys, just help me to remind me sometime about recording the video. Sometime I just forgot.
Sure thing, sir. I got your back.
So now we can add more than one light. Let's take a look at the default light that we have. It has ambient. Normally you would want ambient to be 0, and then there's a intensity. So right now is 0.85. Now the light type, let's take a look at light type. These are sunlight. So I would change the color to be a little more toward to warm color, like yellow. Here we go. But really light, because sunlight, it's not really bright. It's not exactly white color. It has a little. Here we go. And let's test again. Render. Here we go. So I can bump this up to 100%. Render again. And then we're going to introduce a few lights. Here we go. So now I want the light to kind of casting from the bottom to fake bounce light. Oh, hey, guys, I forgot. Save this scene. I'm going to call Beetle Light Render. Save your file, might crash. Okay. So now I'm gonna go back to the light.
You save under render, or you just save it on the
no,
tool?
you save the tool. You
Okay.
save the tool because you wanted to save all of this information with it. Okay, just in case. Now, click on the second light here. When you first click, it just indicate where the light is, but it's not on yet. So now to turn it on, you have to click one more time. Now, would be better if you turn off the first one so that we can see how this light really lit. So it's lit right around there from the bottom, and the light type is set to sun. Well, because these are fake, you could just leave it as a sun color because it's brighter. If you choose spotlight, you have to bump these up higher. And then there's a point lights also. Spotlight is like a cone shape. And now you can add the radial light also into that, like multiply into it. So create like a ring shape of the light. So right now we could just stick with a sunlight, and I'm gonna move that really down to the bottom. I'm gonna fake bounce light, and on this light property, I do not turn on shadow because I don't want that shadow to compete. We faking the lights. In real life, even though the bounce light actually has to have shadow, but to save time to render. Now, I'm gonna change the color to kind of blue and dark, really dark blue, a little bit gray. Here we go. So I think it might be too dark. Here we go. How about that? It just want to lit like fake ambient color from the floor.
Oh, so like a underglow
Yeah. So
you can add under cars.
and then right now it's only 0.3, like 30%. Let's try. Might be too dark. I don't know yet. So render. No, it's not that dark. That's good. And this is not enough, obviously. So let me go back to the angle. Hey guys, what about if I wanted to save the angle that, let's say I like this angle. I want this to be my rendering. Well, we can actually save this view. There's a little work on here. I'm going to use the same divider, and I'm going to add a document right here, dock into it. And right here, the zap link property. Okay. So now I want this angle, like that angle. I can click custom. Now the zap link view will be enabled. So right now I add custom. So if I move my view, let's say I want to see if the lights are cast on the bottom, I test the light and then I can click this, it will come back. So custom. Now we have this button too. We can assign this button if we want. However, I don't think it's necessary because you could just click right here, like said font, just click font. And then if click one more time, we'll be back. So right and then left, top, bottom. So I don't think we need to assign that. I mean, sometimes when you feel like, okay, if this is the bottom, but it's cropped, so I'm gonna zoom out. How about this? I want exactly like this. Well, you can. You could do that, and then you just click bottom. Now, ZBrush will add a flipping. So when you click bottom, we'll also add top. If I click top, see, it's flipped. I click bottom, go back. So you can, if you want to use. Now I'm gonna go back to my custom one. So now I can test render again. And I think that's good. And I think right now we lit the bottom, but if you look, let's bring the other light back, the main key light. So this is the key light, this is the fill light, you can call it fill light. And you need to enable to click twice. It should turn on orange color. Now render again. There we go. And see how it look. It worked, but it just because of my angle. It's really bottom. I could see a little blue there. If it's, let me bump it up more. How about 0.5? Let's make it brighter. 0.5. Render again. And I think I probably have to change. Now I can see it's lit. I'm gonna make the color a little lighter because I think it's bright enough. It's just too dark color of the lights. Because you don't want it to overlight from the fill light. The fill light should be subordinate. Okay, that looks like it's like has a little blue ambient look. Now, I could add one more. No, this is good enough. Okay. And well, we can actually sculpt a little bit with lights. Let's do a little rim light. So click on the third one, turn everything off for now. So just on the third. Now the third, if you wanted to switch the place, the light to the back, you just click on the preview sphere. It will flip the light. Can you see? So if I put it right here on the side, I click, it flip to the other side, to this side. I want it to be right on the edge there. So I'm gonna bring it up a little higher so that I can see. See, it's right on the back side there. Maybe right here. Okay, just to see it and test render. So see, it's lit right on that edges. And I can, let's see, this time I would stick with same color, similar color of the blue again, really light. Here we go. Here we go. And let me do even number 0.5. And I don't need shadow, so check on the shadow. Oh, sorry. Light property, no shadow on. Okay, that's good. And the type is sun. I'm gonna by default turn on radius. It just ZBrush assumed that we wanted to use this as a backlight to lit, so it's kind of create a ring. You know, they kind of fake. It's a fake light, so which is we wanted actually. Now, the other thing is when we don't have a shadow, light will get through the body, and can you see it's lit this section also? So if I render again, see that? Because there's no shadow. In 3D application, when you turn on shadow, 3D application, the OpenGL will create a fake grayscale map. So when you think about when it has a shadow, any object will block the lights because it's gonna produce the shadow. So it means if the lights are behind there, it cannot go through this section of the surface. So it will not cast into here. Well, in this case, I kind of wanted to have it because it's fake. Let's do 0.25, just really light. Now bring everything back. And 3 lights is, I think, is enough. Sometimes if you feel like front and back a little too dark, you can't really see the 3D form, add more light. And I think this is good. I could see a little shade in there. And this section, it doesn't really have a black color. You kind of want to avoid black color. It's because black color is create a flat shape. Now, I think this is what I wanted. This is the lights I want. I'm gonna save it now. So I'm gonna go to render palette, click on compose, and I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna call number 3. Here we go, and click OK. So now, next thing is I'm gonna change different angle. I can start at font view first, and then, and one more thing, guys, I forgot. We need to turn on perspective, and because otherwise will look flat. It needs a little 3-dimensional look. So now I'm gonna keep this. So this will be custom 2. Here we go. And we run out of the custom. So you could use any one of these to assign it. The only thing is if I click font with this view, when I click back, we'll switch. We'll just rotate, which is fine. So right now I already add custom, render again. I mean, in this process, you don't really have to do it, but you can if you want. And then I'm gonna save this. Now, you can, if you don't want it to scroll up and down, you could just use a document export. Is the same. So this one will be full. And I'm gonna change my cropping because composition wise it's not good with the last crop. And I am giving a little room on here on this side. Can you see if because of the direction of the eye direction of the rhino is going to left, so I kind of give a little room to the left to create balance. And if I don't know if you guys know this, if you look at on the portrait, if you place the one eyes of the portrait into the center of the composition, any angle, it will appear to be that portrait is looking at you. Doesn't matter where in the room you're walking to, because it's the eye is just on the center. It looks like it's keep looking at you. So just a little trick. Okay, click OK, and that's it for the light and rendering. This is just a basics. There are more, but for now I think that's the only thing you need. Okay, any questions? I'm gonna stop this video.